The mockery begins. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly in all directions, broken only by the distant glow of stars and the sleek forms of two very different fleets facing each other across the void. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UEN Defiance, her dark eyes fixed on the massive alien vessels that hung like metallic predators in the darkness ahead. After 3 centuries of reaching toward the stars, humanity was finally meeting another space-faring civilization. The Kethvar Empire had agreed to this first contact meeting in neutral space, halfway between their territory and the expanding human colonies. Their ships were impressive, all curves and gleaming surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. Each vessel was easily twice the size of the largest human warship, their hulls decorated with intricate patterns that pulsed with inner light. "Status report," Elena commanded, her voice steady despite the historic importance of this moment. "All systems green, Captain," replied Lieutenant Sarah Chen from the tactical station. "The Kethvar fleet is maintaining position exactly as agreed. No signs of hostile intent." Elena nodded, then turned her attention to the display showing her own fleet. 5 human vessels had made the journey to this remote sector. The Defiance served as the flagship, flanked by the cruisers Valor and Determination. The science vessel Discovery hung back, its sensors recording everything for the history books. And then there was the 5th ship, the Wanderer. Elena frowned as she looked at the ancient vessel. It barely seemed to belong with the rest of the modern fleet. Where the other ships had clean lines and polished hulls, the Wanderer looked like it had been cobbled together from spare parts. Its hull showed patches of different metals, some sections clearly added long after the original construction. Bird marks and impact craters dotted its surface, and several of its external systems appeared to be held together with improvised repairs. "Captain," came a voice from the communication station. "We're receiving a transmission from the Kethvar flagship." "Put it on screen." The main display flickered and revealed the bridge of an alien vessel. The Kethvar who appeared was tall and elegant, with blue-gray skin and large, multifaceted eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Decorative ridges ran along its skull, marking it as a high-ranking member of their society. "I am High Admiral Zixthera of the Kethvar Imperial Fleet," the alien said, its voice carrying through the translation system with perfect clarity. "I welcome you to this historic meeting between our peoples." Elena stepped forward. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez, representing the United Earth Nations. We are honored to make contact with your civilization." The alien's large eyes seemed to study her for a moment before shifting to examine the human fleet through some unseen display. "Your ships are interesting, Captain Vasquez. They show considerable variation in design and capability." There was something in the alien's tone that made Elena's spine stiffen. "Each vessel serves a specific purpose in our fleet, Admiral." "Indeed, we have been scanning your formation and find ourselves curious about one ship in particular." The alien's eyes returned to Elena. "The vessel you call the Wanderer. Our sensors indicate it is significantly older than your other ships, yet it appears to be barely functional." Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks. "The Wanderer is a fully operational vessel, Admiral. It may not look like much, but it has served the human fleet faithfully for many years." A sound that might have been laughter came from the alien. "Faithfully, yes. We can see the evidence of that service in every patch and repair across its hull. Tell me, Captain, is it common for your people to bring museum pieces to important diplomatic encounters?" Before Elena could respond, another voice cut through the communication. "All ships. This is Commander Jake Morrison aboard the Wanderer. I request permission to address the Kethvar directly." Elena hesitated. Morrison was known throughout the fleet as an excellent commander, but he was also famously protective of his old ship. She had specifically instructed all captains to let her handle the diplomatic communications. "Commander Morrison," she began, but the alien interrupted. "Please, Captain Vasquez, we would very much like to hear from the commander of your historical vessel." The screen split, showing both Elena and Morrison. The commander of the Wanderer was a man in his 50s, with graying hair and calm blue eyes that had seen more than their share of battles. Unlike Alina's crisp uniform, Morrison wore a simple jumpsuit that looked as patched and repaired as his ship. "Admiral Zixthera," Morrison said with a slight nod. "I understand you have questions about my ship." "Indeed, Commander. We are curious why the human fleet would include such an obviously outdated vessel in a meeting of this importance. Surely you have more modern ships that would better represent your technological capabilities." Morrison's expression didn't change, but Alina caught a slight tightening around his eyes. "The Wanderer has been part of every major human expedition for the past several decades, Admiral. She may not be pretty, but she's never let us down." "How touching," the alien replied, and this time there was no mistaking the condescension in its voice. "However, we must express concern about having such an unstable vessel so close to our ships. Our scans indicate multiple system failures and structural weaknesses that could pose a danger to both fleets." Alina watched Morrison's jaw clench. "Admiral, I'd assure you that the Wanderer poses no threat to your vessels. Every system has been checked and certified safe for this mission." "Perhaps," the alien said, "but we would feel more comfortable if we could conduct our own inspection. For the safety of all involved, of course." The communication ended abruptly, leaving Alina staring at a blank screen. She immediately opened a channel to Morrison. "Jake, what the hell was that about? You know we agreed to let me handle all diplomatic communications." Morrison's face appeared on her screen, and she was surprised to see him smiling. "Sorry, Alina. I just wanted to hear what they had to say about the old girl." "Well, you heard it. They think we brought a piece of junk to the most important first contact in human history. This is exactly what I was worried about when Command insisted on including the Wanderer in the fleet." "Is it?" Morrison asked, his smile widening. "Or is it exactly what we wanted them to think?" Before Alina could ask what he meant, her communications officer spoke up. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission from the Kefar. This time it's from their diplomatic vessel." The screen showed a different alien, this one smaller and with more elaborate decorations along its skull ridges. "I am Ambassador Veltun. I apologize for Admiral Zixthera's direct manner. Military officers sometimes lack proper diplomatic subtlety." Alina forced herself to smile. "No apology necessary, Ambassador. We understand that first contact can be challenging for everyone involved." "Indeed. However, the Admiral's concerns about your vessel are shared by our technical staff. We have prepared a small boarding party to inspect the ship you call the Wanderer. Purely for safety purposes, you understand." Alina's smile became strained. "Ambassador, that's not part of our agreed protocol. The inspection of vessels by either party was not discussed in our preliminary negotiations." Nevertheless, the alien continued smoothly. "We must insist. Our sensors detect some very unusual energy signatures from that vessel. For the safety of both fleets, we need to understand what we're dealing with." "I'm afraid that's impossible," Alina replied firmly. "No foreign personnel will be allowed aboard any human vessel without explicit authorization from Earth Command." The ambassador's large eyes seemed to grow even larger. "Captain Vasquez, I hope you understand that refusing this reasonable safety request could be seen as an act of hostility. We are trying to prevent a potential disaster." Alina felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. The first contact between humanity and an alien civilization was hanging in the balance, and it all seemed to revolve around one battered old ship that she had never wanted in the fleet in the first place. "Ambassador," she began, but was interrupted by Morrison's voice cutting across the communication channel. "Captain Vasquez, with your permission, I'd like to address the ambassador directly." Alina almost refused, but something in Morrison's tone made her hesitate. "Very well, Commander, but keep it brief." Morrison's face appeared alongside Alina's on the screen. "Ambassador Veltun, I understand your concerns about the Wanderer. She's certainly seen better days, and I know she doesn't look like much compared to your beautiful ships." The ambassador's posture relaxed slightly. At least someone among you shows reason, Commander. Yes, your vessel appears to be held together by hope and determination alone. She's definitely old, Morrison agreed. Older than most people realize, actually. But before you make any final judgments about her capabilities, might I suggest a small demonstration? Elena's blood ran cold. Commander Morrison, I don't think that's wise. But Morrison was already continuing. Nothing dramatic, Ambassador. Just a simple test of our basic systems. After all, if the Wanderer is as dangerous and unstable as your sensors suggest, surely a minor system activation would cause obvious problems. The ambassador exchanged glances with someone off-screen. What sort of demonstration did you have in mind, Commander? Just a standard defensive posture. We'll activate our shields and run a basic system diagnostic. If there are any dangerous instabilities, they should show up immediately. Elena opened a private channel to Morrison. Jake, what are you doing? We agreed to keep a low profile. Morrison's response was barely a whisper. Trust me, Elena. It's time they learned what they're really dealing with. The ambassador was consulting with his technical staff. Very well, Commander. We will monitor your systems closely. Any sign of instability or danger, and we will be forced to take protective action. Understood, Morrison said calmly. Beginning system activation now. Elena watched her tactical display as the Wanderer's systems came online. At first, everything appeared normal. The ship's power readings increased, and what looked like standard deflector shields shimmered into existence around the old vessel. Then something changed. The energy readings from the Wanderer suddenly spiked beyond anything Elena had ever seen from a human ship. The space around the old vessel began to distort, as if reality itself was bending around some invisible force. The patchwork hull plates shifted and realigned, revealing glimpses of something far more sophisticated underneath. What the hell? Elena whispered, staring at her instruments in disbelief. On the main screen, Ambassador Velton's composed expression had vanished, replaced by what could only be described as shock. Commander Morrison, what is that energy signature? Our sensors are detecting power levels that should be impossible for a vessel of that size and apparent age. Morrison's smile had returned, but now it carried a weight that Elena had never seen before. That, Ambassador, is why the Wanderer has been part of every major human expedition for the past several decades. She may look like junk, but appearances can be very deceiving. The alien's voice rose in pitch. Those readings, they're similar to technologies described in our oldest historical records, technologies that predate our own civilization by millennia. Is that so? Morrison asked mildly. How interesting. Elena found her voice. Jake, what is going on? What have you done to the Wanderer? Morrison turned to face her on the screen, and for the first time in years of knowing him, Elena saw something ancient and tired in his eyes. I haven't done anything to her, Elena. This is what she's always been. We just usually keep it hidden. The ambassador was frantically consulting with his staff. Commander Morrison, we demand an immediate explanation. That vessel is clearly not what it appears to be. What are you hiding from us? Morrison's expression grew serious. Ambassador, Admiral, Captain Vasquez, I think it's time you all learned the truth about the Wanderer, and about how long humanity has really been traveling among the stars. The energy readings from the old ship continued to climb, and Elena realized that everything she thought she knew about human space exploration was about to change forever. The ancient truth revealed. The space around the Wanderer continued to ripple and distort as Commander Morrison's words hung in the silence between the two fleets. Elena stared at her tactical displays, watching energy readings that defied everything she knew about human technology. The ancient ship that had been the source of embarrassment moments before now radiated power that made her own flagship seem primitive by comparison. Commander Morrison, Admiral Zixthera's voice cut through the communication channel, sharp with authority and barely contained alarm. You will explain these readings immediately. What you are showing us is impossible according to our understanding of human technological development. Morrison stood calmly on his bridge, surrounded by systems that Elena was now realizing she had never truly seen before. What she had always assumed were crude repairs and outdated equipment now looked like sophisticated technology disguised to appear primitive. "Admiral, Ambassador," Morrison began, his voice carrying the weight of years, "what I'm about to tell you will change how you think about humanity's place among the stars. The Wanderer isn't just old. She's ancient. This ship was launched from Earth over 1,000 years ago." Elena felt her world tilt. "That's impossible, Jake. Human civilization barely had spaceflight 1,000 years ago. Our historical records show we only achieved interstellar travel 3 centuries ago." Morrison turned to look at her through the screen, and his expression was filled with a mixture of pride and sorrow. "Our official records, Elena. The ones taught in schools and written in textbooks. But there are other records, older ones, kept by a very small group of people who understand what really happened during Earth's darkest century." Ambassador Velatin leaned forward, his large eyes fixed on Morrison. "You claim this vessel is 1,000 years old. Our own archaeological records from that period suggest your species was barely beginning to explore their own solar system." "That's what we wanted everyone to believe," Morrison replied. "Including our own people, eventually. The truth was too dangerous to share openly." Morrison touched something on his console, and the communication expanded to include a new display. Historical images began to appear, showing Earth as it had been centuries before. The planet looked wounded, its surface scarred by storms, rising seas, and the aftermath of conflicts that had consumed entire continents. 1,053 years ago, Morrison continued, Earth was dying. Climate disasters, resource wars, and nuclear exchanges had pushed human civilization to the brink of extinction. Most of the world's governments had collapsed. Billions had died. Those who remained faced a future that offered nothing but suffering and slow death. The images showed refugee camps, flooded cities, and vast areas of land turned into uninhabitable wasteland. Elena had seen historical records of Earth's difficult past, but nothing like this level of devastation. But in a research facility hidden deep in the Canadian mountains, Morrison continued, a team of scientists led by Dr. Sarah Chen. Yes, Lieutenant, your ancestor made a discovery that would change everything. Lieutenant Chen at the tactical station gasped, my ancestor. But our family records don't mention any Dr. Sarah Chen from that period. Your family records were altered, like many others, Morrison explained gently. Dr. Chen's team had been studying anomalous objects recovered from melting ice caps around the world. Objects that clearly hadn't been made by human hands. Admiral Zixthera's ridged features hardened. You're claiming contact with alien technology 1,000 years ago. Not contact, Morrison corrected. Discovery. Scattered remnants of some ancient civilization that had visited Earth long before humans developed written language. Most of the artifacts were damaged beyond repair, but Dr. Chen's team managed to understand enough to realize they were looking at technology that could save humanity. The display changed to show technical diagrams that made Elena's head spin. The mathematics and engineering principles were far beyond anything she had learned in the academy, yet they somehow felt familiar, as if she had seen similar concepts before without recognizing their true significance. Working in secret, with resources scavenged from the ruins of civilization, Dr. Chen's team built the first Wanderer. Not this ship. The original was smaller, more primitive. But it worked. It could travel between stars in ways that shouldn't have been possible with human technology of that era. Morrison paused, and Elena could see the weight of the story in his eyes. The first crew of the Wanderer left Earth in 2971, carrying with them the genetic samples, cultural records, and technological knowledge of a dying species. They had no idea if they would find anything out here, or if Earth would even still exist when they tried to return. But they did return, Elena said, beginning to understand. Eventually. The first expedition lasted 37 years. They found 17 potentially habitable worlds, 3 of which showed signs of primitive life. More importantly, they found that the ancient technology could be improved, enhanced with human engineering and creativity. Ambassador Galton was frantically consulting with his staff. "Commander, the energy signatures we're detecting from your vessel. They match references in our oldest historical archives. Technologies mentioned in legends from our own pre-industrial period." Morrison nodded slowly. "The beings who left these artifacts visited many worlds, Ambassador. Your people may have encountered them just as ours did, though perhaps your ancestors were wiser about keeping such knowledge hidden." "You're saying humanity has been secretly exploring space for over a millennium?" Elena asked, her mind reeling with the implications. "Not just exploring," Morrison replied. "Building, learning, growing. Over the centuries, we established hidden colonies on dozens of worlds. We developed technologies that made the ancient artifacts look primitive. But we also learned the most important lesson of all." He paused, looking directly at the alien representatives. "We learned that the galaxy is full of species who fear what they don't understand, and who destroy what they fear." Admiral Zixthera's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Are you threatening us, Commander?" "Not at all," Morrison replied calmly. "I'm explaining why we've spent centuries hiding our true capabilities. Every time humanity tried to openly share advanced technology, it led to conflict. Wars that devastated worlds and wiped out entire species. So we learned to be patient, to appear weak when we were strong, to let others believe they were superior while we quietly continued to grow and learn." The energy readings from the Wanderer suddenly spiked even higher, and Elena watched in amazement as the ship's external hull began to shift and change. The patched, primitive-looking exterior was sliding away, revealing sleek surfaces underneath that gleamed with their own inner light. "What you see now," Morrison said, "is the Wanderer as she truly is. The 27th ship to bear that name, each one more advanced than the last. She's not just a vessel. She's a repository of 1,000 years of human ingenuity, determination, and hope." Ambassador Galton's composure finally cracked completely. "The power readings are off our scales, Commander. That ship could destroy our entire fleet." "Yes," Morrison agreed simply. "She could, but she won't. Do you know why?" Elena found herself holding her breath, waiting for the answer. "Because in 1,000 years of secret exploration, humanity has encountered 47 different spacefaring species. We've had the opportunity to conquer or destroy 32 of them. We've had the power to subjugate entire civilizations, to claim their worlds and resources for ourselves." Morrison's voice grew quiet, but carried across space with absolute clarity. "And we never did. Not once. Instead, we watched. We learned. We helped when we could, always from the shadows. We prevented 17 interstellar wars that would have devastated billions of lives. We stopped 6 genocides by carefully manipulating circumstances to give the victims a chance to escape or defend themselves. We've saved species that never even knew they were in danger." The alien representatives were silent, processing the implications of what they were hearing. "Why?" Admiral Zixthera finally asked. "If you had such power, why hide? Why not claim your place as a dominant force in the galaxy?" Morrison smiled, and for the first time since Elena had known him, it was a smile without any hidden sadness. "Because that's not who we are, Admiral. Our species learned something important during those dark centuries on Earth. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. Strength without compassion creates only suffering." He gestured toward the viewports of his bridge, indicating the vast expanse of space around them. "The galaxy doesn't need another empire built on fear and conquest. It needs gardeners, protectors, species willing to nurture growth rather than dominate it." Elena felt tears she didn't expect starting to form. "Jake, why are you telling us this now? Why break 1,000 years of secrecy?" Morrison's expression grew serious again. "Because times are changing, Elena. Our long-range scouts have detected something moving in the void between galaxies, something vast and hungry that consumes entire star systems. The age of hiding is coming to an end. He looked directly at the alien representatives. Admiral, Ambassador, your Kethvar Empire is strong and proud, but what's coming will require more than strength. It will require every species in the galaxy working together, sharing knowledge and resources without fear or prejudice. Morrison touched his console again, and the Wanderer systems began to power down. The magnificent ship slowly resumed its humble, patched appearance, though now Elena could see it for the masterful disguise it truly was. The choice is yours, Morrison continued. We can continue this first contact as planned, with humanity playing the role of the younger, weaker species seeking guidance from your advanced civilization. Or we can have a different conversation. One between equals who understand that the future will require the best of both our peoples. Admiral Zixthera and Ambassador Velton exchanged long looks before the Admiral spoke. Commander Morrison, Captain Vasquez, in light of these revelations, I believe our diplomatic protocols will need to be significantly revised. Elena found her voice. Are you saying you're willing to start over? To approach this as true partners rather than as superior and inferior species? I'm saying, the Admiral replied, that any species capable of maintaining such discipline and wisdom for 1,000 years while possessing the power to dominate the galaxy has earned our respect, and perhaps our friendship. Ambassador Velton nodded. We would very much like to learn more about these techniques for disguising advanced technology. Our own encounters with aggressive species have been costly. Morrison chuckled. I think that could be arranged, Ambassador. After all, we've had 1,000 years to perfect the art of looking helpless while being anything but. As Elena watched the beginning of what she now realized would be a very different kind of first contact, she couldn't help but smile. Humanity had spent a millennium hiding among the stars, growing stronger while appearing weak, learning while seeming ignorant, and now, finally, it was time to step out of the shadows and take their place among the stars as the protectors they had always been meant to be. The Wanderer hung in space between the two fleets, no longer an embarrassment, but a symbol of human patience, wisdom, and hope. After 1,000 years of secret guardianship, humanity was ready to openly join the galactic community. But this time, they would do so as equals.